We begin today the Gemara on the bottom of the Vav Amud Beis, Omar Rabba Bar Bachana, 2 lines from the bottom of the Amud. The Gemara here brought up the story of Pelegesh Begiva, which all happened because of this husband that was too makpid. He got very angry at his wife and she fled. And after that, the whole terrible story developed. So in connection to this, the Gemara brings another statement of how a person should be careful. This that the Mishnah says, this is a Mishnah Masechta Shabbos. There are 3 things that a person has to ask or remind his family or his wife on Friday afternoon, right before Shkia. Asartem, did you take maisris from the fruits, from the produce, so we can eat tomorrow? Araftem, did you make the Eruv? This is an Eruv Chatzeres, if you have a few houses in the same courtyard, to be allowed to carry in and out into the courtyard. And Hadliku Esaneres, to make sure to light Shabbos candles before Shkia. Right? We're on Daf Vav Amud Beis. You got a marker there, so that's good. Hadliku Esaneres. So these 3 things that you have to say, Tzarech Lememrinu Benicheseh. It has to be said calmly. If a person is going to say this with all the special Erev Shabbos tension and nervousness, so then you might get a response which is not even true. You cause people to get angry. So you should say it calmly. So your words should be accepted. Ravashi says, I did not hear what Rabbi Bar Bachana said, that it has to be said calmly. But I did so on my own, with my own understanding that this is the right thing. What is he adding? So Rabbi Bar Bachana also said this misvara. He didn't bring any source from any pasuk for this. Certain things you have to do not only because someone else tells you to do so, but you have to understand on your own that this is appropriate behavior. So you're saying it that do this because you understand that to be a mensch and to speak this way is the right thing. A person should never throw extra fear or be intimidating in his house. There was a great person, and he did throw this fear upon the people in his home. And then what happened was, and they ended up giving him something that's asr. The Gemara will soon say what this is, because they were afraid of him. Umanu, who is this that they ended up giving him something that's not kosher to eat? Rab Chanina ben Gamliel. Chanina ben Gamliel, they gave him to eat something that's not kosher. Is it possible that because of this he ended up eating something not kosher? When it comes even to the animals that are owned by a tzaddik. The Eibishter does not bring that the animal should stumble upon something that it's not allowed. Tzaddikim atzmam loy kol shekain. Most definitely, the tzaddikim themselves, the Eibishter doesn't allow them to stumble on something. So how could it be that he stumbled and he ate something that's not kosher? Says the Gemara, Elo bikshu la'achilei davar gadol. We're almost going to give him to eat something which is not kosher. Now, what's this expression of davar gadol? Umay nihu. What's this big isser? Eiver minachai. They were going to give him to eat something from eiver minachai. So Rashi said what happened was they had the meat that they prepared that was shechted, and the piece that they were going to serve him got lost. So they were afraid of his anger, and so they were so afraid of him. So they were prepared eiver minachai to give him to eat instead. So he almost ended up eating this eiver minachai, but he didn't, because the Eibishter is not machshel, doesn't allow that this should happen to a tzaddik. Taisvis over here, there's a famous shitta of Taisvis about this that says that the Eibishter is not machshel a tzaddik is only regarding the isser of achila when it comes to the isser of eating something. Other types of isurim that are not achila, that could happen even to a tzaddik. And the Rebbe once spoke about it, that Alter Rebbe said in Tanya that when you eat something, ignasav dama basa kipsari, it mamish becomes part of the flesh and the blood of the person. So then it's mamish a gnai. It's a despicable thing that this isser becomes a part of your being. But other yisurim, not necessarily. But Rashi and other Yishayim disagree. They say that no, this inya that the Eibishter is not machshel tzaddik is not only by isser of achila, it's by any isser. The Eibishter does not allow a tzaddik to be nichshel. Sagt the Gemara weiter. Mar Ukve, or Shalach Le, that is, Shalach Le, Mar Ukve, Le Rabbi Lazar. Mar Ukve sent to ask a question from Rabbi Lazar. Now, this is an unrelated subject. The only reason it's being brought up over here is because before we brought, if you remember, the halacha, that when you write a pasuk, or at least 3 or 4 words from Tanakh, you have to first etch in the lines. You have to do sirtut in order to write it nice and straight. So over here, in this story, also he was writing a pasuk and he had to do the sirtut, so that's what the Gemara is bringing this here. There are people that are standing up against me, they're antagonizing me, they're bothering me. And I have the option to give them over to the government, to get them out of my way by getting the police on their case. Mahu, what should I do? Am I allowed to do this? Sirtat v'kosav lei. So Rabbi Elazar answers back Marukve, and he wrote him the following pasuk. Amarti eshmer adrachai. I say that I guard my ways, mechatoi, from to sin, b'lishaini, mechatoi b'lishaini, from to sin with my tongue, eshmer lefi machsam, and I keep to my mouth a muzzle. I close my mouth. V'oid rasha lenegdi, even if there's a rasha that's standing up against me. Afa pisha rasha lenegdi. So even if there's a rasha standing up against you, eshmer lefi machsam. You should muzzle your mouth. You should not inform on him to the government. Shalach lei, but eventually he sends back to ask again, because this was really getting to him. Kometzari lituva. I have tremendous pain, and this was stopping him of learning. I cannot handle this. So that was his main question, as the Mefarshim may explain. The fact that they were antagonizing him, okay, so you have to learn how to ignore it or handle it. But his problem was that they were getting him to the point that they were disturbing him from learning. So he has a chiyuv to learn Torah, and he can't. Sholach lei, so he still sent him back, and here he sent him a different pasuk, and he wrote, Daim lashem v'hischaylo. Be quiet to the Eibishter and v'hischaylo. What does v'hischaylo mean? So he taught him that it means, Daim lashem, be quiet to the Eibishter, v'hu yapileim lacho chalolim chalolim. And the Eibishter will have them fall to you like people that are slain, that die, and the Eibishter will take care of the matter for you. So here, the Gemara does not say that he was misartet, that he etched the line when he wrote this pasuk. So it could be that he wrote it on the same page that he wrote it before. So from here you see, I mentioned this point yesterday, that this halacha of sirtut, when you're writing these psukim, is only on the top line. You have to make one sirtut, one top. You don't have to make a sirtut in every single line, like by the mezuzah, where you have to make it, or the Sefer Torah today, that you make it on every single line. Okay, so this is what he answered him back. And he said to him as follows, Hashkein v'hare v'alein. Wake up early and learn Torah. Go to sleep late at night and learn extra Torah. L'beis HaMedrash, that's in the Beis HaMedrash. V'hein kolam alein. And they will, on their own, they will get rid of them. Hadava yatsa mipi Rabbi Elazar. This matter came out from the mouth of Rabbi Elazar. V'nasnu l'gniva b'koilar. And Geniva, so now we know who this individual was. Geniva was the one that was arguing and fighting with him. And he was taken out and he was hung. So automatically, the Eibishter took care of the matter for him. As Geniva actually was a Talmud Chacham. This Geniva wasn't a Stama Amaretz, but at the same time, it was, as we see here, he was a big Baal Machlekes, and he antagonized Mar Ukve, and this was his end. Shal Chalela Mar Ukve. Now the question was sent to Mar Ukve. Zimra minol on the aser. From where do we know that Zimra, which means to sing, Rashi teaches Zimra means to sing, and this is even to sing without musical instruments. In Beis HaMishtois, Rashi says, in bars, in places where you're drinking wine and so on. So this is not allowed today. This is the source of this inyan, comes from the end of the Gemara in Saita. We learned there the Mishnah that says this idea, the Isser of song or music, Bisman Hazeh. So from where do we know that Bisman Hazeh, it's Aser? Sirtat v'kosavle. So again, he etched a line and he wrote to him the following pasuk. It says, Al tismach Yisrael el gil ba'amim. The Yidden should not be joyous in the joy of the nations. So to sing today in the Beis HaMishtois is not allowed. Frag the Gemara, why is he bringing this as a source? V'lishlach lohu mehacha. Why doesn't he bring another pasuk? And this is actually the pasuk that's brought in Saita, B'shir lo yishtu yayin. That singing together with drinking wine is not allowed. That the wine that you drink, for the ones that drink it, should be yem, should be bitter, should not drink it, and with song. Answers the Gemara, imahu, because we didn't bring from that pasuk. Because if it was that pasuk, havamine, I would think hanimil zimra demana, that's only with a musical instrument. Because in that pasuk there, it mentions a kinnah, a harp. Avol de puma, but just singing by mouth, shari, I would think that's allowed. Kamash Malon, that's why he brought the pasuk of Al Tismach Yisrael Gil Ba'amu that says that even to sing is also aser. So as I mentioned before, Rashi here says that it's based on Mishtois. So from the Pshat of the Gemara, it seems like that if it's with musical instruments, that it's not even necessarily in a bar or in a Beis HaMishta or in a chasana or something like that. Chlal, it's also to play with musical instruments today. But singing, bepeh, that's also if it's a Beis HaMishta. Okay, so just to mention Bekitzer again, I spoke about this when we learned this in the end of the Gemara Text. So you may be wondering, so what's going on? Why do we have music today and singing today? What's the heter for this? So some people will tell you maybe there is no heter. There are some Rishonim that are very machmer about this. The Rambam is known to be the one that was very, very machmer about the subject. He held that it's also completely. There's even a tshuva of the Rambam where he writes that it's also to sing and the music today all together. But the heter that there is when you're singing songs that are from Sukkim and it's things that are Ma'ir Yerushalayim or Shavach Vahidah to the Eibishter. So that's allowed. And the other thing is that if a person needs the music because otherwise he'll be completely depressed and it's a refuah for the person to sing, so then you're also allowed to use music and singing. So today, people will tell you that without music today, people will just lose it. They can't. They can't live with sanity without music. So therefore, that's the two heterim that there are. This manaseh. Okay. Amalei Rav Huna bar Nosen le Ravashi. What is the meaning of the pasuk where it says Kina v'dimayna v'ad oda? These are actually names of cities in Eretz Yisrael in a pasuk in Yeshua. So what is the meaning of this? Amalei. So Ravashi asks to him, what do you mean? Masvasad Eretz Yisrael kachashiv. This is a pasuk that's telling you cities in Eretz Yisrael. Amalei. So Rav Nosson says to him, Otu anali adaina de masvasad Eretz Yisrael kachashiv. You think I don't know that these are cities in Eretz Yisrael? Ella, he says, rather Rav Gviya me Argiza. Rav Gviya, he came from the place Argiza, Amaba Taima. So yes, there are names, but he explained the meaning of these names, that there's a message here. What is the message? Kol sheyeshloi kina al chaveroi, a person that has an anger on his friend. That's what the name kina means. V'daimim, and he's quiet. There's a reason that he's justified to be angry at his friend, but he's still quiet. Sheichen adei ad isolatin. The Eibishter will do justice for you. The Eibishter will take care of the matter for you. This is sort of in connection to the point that we learned before about Mar Ukva that was antagonized by Geniva, and the Eibishter took care of the matter for him. Amalei. So Ravashi says, okay, you're darshaning the names of cities in Eretz Yisrael in the pasuk of Yeshua. Elamata, there are other names of cities there. It says Tziklog, Madmana, and Sansana, or Sansena. Hachanami, so you also have a drasha for the names of these cities? Amalei, so Rav Nosson said, if Rav Gviya from Argiza was here, Havama Bataima. He would have found the meaning to the names of these cities. Now the Gemara says, Rav Acha from Chuzah, Hachi. So he explained the meaning of these cities as follows. Call a person that is screaming because of legima. Legima is what you swallow, food, and you're screaming that he's taking away my food and he's taking away my parnasa. You have a taina on your friend. You have a reason to really be angry at him. But v'daimen, but you're quiet, right? So that's you tie the pasuk. Tziklog means he has a tzaike for the legima, and madmana means he's quiet. Sheichen b'sneh oisleidin. Sansana means refers to the Eibishter, which dwelled by the sneh. The Eibishter will make justice for you. Reish Galusa said to Rav Huna. This is in connection to we brought before about the music today after the Churban, which is aser. So there's other things that Chachamu Geizer that it's not allowed after the Churban. Kalila minala on the aser. Kalila, this crown that they were made for the Chsanim, where they made it from gold or from silver or from other materials. How do we know that this is not allowed? Amalei, so he told him that midrabanan, that the Rabbanan instituted that you should not do this after the Churban. As we learned in the Mishnah at the end of Saita, the Tanah in the Mishnah this says, Bepulmis shel Aspasianis. When the war of Aspasianis, he came to fight with the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael. This was about 50 years before the Churban. Gazru ala taris chasanim, the Chachamim decreed not to use anymore these crowns for the chasanim. And also vala irus. Vala irus is some kind of a bell that has a clapper in it that makes some kind of a sound, some kind of a musical instrument that would go it as well, that this should not be used. This was the conversation that they had over here. Then Rav Huna explained that Chachamim will go this in that time period. Kom Rav Huna lafnuye. Now after Rav Huna said this, Rav Huna had to go out, he had to excuse himself, and he left the room. Now Rav Chisda was sitting there. Rav Chisda was a student of Rav Huna. So in the presence of Rav Huna, he wouldn't answer and he wouldn't say different than his teacher. But once Rav Huna left, Amalei Rav Chisda says to the Reish Galusa, Kroksiv. We could actually learn this Isser of the Ataris, the crown that was made for the Chasam. We could learn from a pasuk, because it says, Koyam Hashem Alekim Hoser Amitz Nefes V'Horim Atara. remove the mitznefes, which is the hat of the Kohen Gadol. Harama atara, remove the atara, the crown of the chassan. Zois loy zois. The Gemara will soon explain what this expression means. Hashvela hagvoya. What's again hashvala hagbeya? What's low is raised up. Vahagvoya hishpil, and what's high is lower down. Okay, the Gemara will soon explain the rest of the pasuk. But the first part of the pasuk, it says, remove the mitznefes of the Kohen Gadol and remove the crown. What does this mean? What's the connection of the mitznefes of the Kohen Gadol to a crown? Elo, rather, what this is coming to say is as follows. When we have the Beis HaMikdash and you have the Kohen Gadol that can wear his mitznefes, so then you're allowed to place the crown at the head, on the head of all people. The chassan could wear his crown. If the Kohen Gadol can't wear his mitznefes, then so then you're not allowed to place the crown on regular people. So you see over here that this is learned from a pasuk. It's not the chachamim that were guys of this. Now, Adahachi, Asa Rav Huna. In between, Rav Huna returned into the room, and he saw that they were sitting and discussing, and he heard what Rav Chisda said, that he learned it out from this pasuk. Amalei. So Rav Huna responded and said, Ha Elokim. That this is an expression of an oath. I says, I'm 100%. I can tell you, I can guarantee you, midrabana, that no, it's not learned from this pasuk. That's not the source, but it was the chachamim in that time period that instituted this. Ella, but then he said about what Rav Chisda said, Chizda Shemeich, your name is Chizda, v'chazda in milech, and your words are kind and beautiful. Okay. Now, Ravine, so Rashi actually explains that that pasuk where it talks about the crown and the mitznefes, in the pshat of the pasuk, it's not referring to the crowns of the chassan, that you don't wear it when there's no mitznefes to the Kohen Gadol. That pasuk is talking about the crown of the king. The pasuk is saying that when the Kohen Gadol, by the churban, the Kohen Gadol won't wear his mitznefes and the king won't wear his crown. But nevertheless, he praised Rav Chisda for saying this pshat. Ravine ashkechele marba Ravashi. Ravine encountered marba Ravashi. The Have Gadol klile lebrate. He was preparing a beautiful crown for his daughter. He was marrying her off. So he asked him, do you not hold from this drasha that was learned from the pasuk, that there's no mitznefes of the Kohen Gadol, and there's also no crown that you make by a chasana? So he answered him, yes, I know of that pasuk, but dumye, the Kohen Gadol begavri, similar to the Kohen Gadol, so this is not allowed for a man, like the Kohen Gadol himself. Avu benoshi loy. But regarding the kala, for her, you are allowed to make the crown. The Gemara goes back to the pasuk quoted before. My zois loy zois. What is the pasuk here saying? This, not this. So this is really a conversation that the Eibishter had regarding what's happening over at the time of the churban. So Darish Rav Avire darshan zimnin olam shmeid Rav Ami v'zimnin olam shmeid Rav Asi. So sometimes he would say it in the name of Rav Ami, and sometimes he would say it in the name of Rav Asi. When the Eibishter said to Yidden, remove the mitznefes of the Kohen Gadol and remove the crown of the kings. So here the Malachim came to the defense of the Yidden. The Master of the universe, Zois lahen li Yisrael. Is this deserving for the Yidden? That's the first Zois that the pasuk is saying. Zois, is this deserving for them? The Yidden said Nasa v'Nishma, and then the Yidden got the two crowns, Echad Keneged Nasa, Echad Keneged Nishma, and the Malachim were actually the one that gave Yidden the two crowns. So if the Yidden said Nasa v'Nishma, how do they deserve now that the mitznefes and the atara should be removed from them? Amalahen, so the Eibishter responded and said, Loi zois lahen li Yisrael. Do they not deserve this, that it should be removed from them? And the continuation of the pasuk, the Eibishter explains why. She'eshpilu es hagavoya. They lowered down what was high, ve'igbiu es hashafal, and they raised up what was really low. Ve'hamidu tselem behechal. They brought a tselem into the hechal, into the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore they deserved that the mitznefes should be removed from them. Again, this is something that he would sometimes repeat in the name of either Rav Ami or Rav Asi. What's the meaning of the pasuk where it says, Koi Omar Hashem, Im Shleimim v'chein Rabim, if you're a whole and you're many, v'chein no goizu, and you will cut off, v'ovar, and you will pass through, the gaimer. Okay, so there is a simple pshat of this pasuk, but here the Gemara darshans what this pasuk means as follows. If a person sees that his parnasa, his mezainis that he has are very exact, he's very, very tight, Nevertheless, yaseh mehen tzedakah. You should still give tzedakah. The kol shekain, and definitely you should give tzedakah kishehein merubin. When a person has extra, when a person has plenty. That's the taich of the pasuk here. Rashi says shleimim. Shleimim means when you just have just the perfect amount that you need, and you have nothing extra. Person should still give tzedakah. Then the pasuk continues and says, "V'chein rabim." Rabim means if you have plenty. So negoizu. Negoizu means cut off. Cut off some of the percent of what you have and give to tzedakah. Now, my v'chein negoizu v'avar. So what does it mean when the pasuk says you cut off and you pass through? What does that mean? You pass through. Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. So Rabbi Shmuel gave the following analogy: Kol hagoizes min achasa, person that cuts off from his possessions, v'oisem and tzedakah, and he gives tzedakah for this. Nitzel midino shel Gehenna. He's saved from the judgment of Gehenna. And the mashal, the analogy for this is l'shtei rechelos sh'haya oivris b'mayim. You have two sheep that are passing through a river, and achas gezuza. One of them, the wool was shorn off. V'achas ein gezuza. The other one is heavy with all the wool in it. So gezuza avra. V'shein gezuza lo yavra. The one that the hair was shorn off is light and it's able to pass through. The one that's heavy is not able to pass through. So too, a person gives tzedakah, he becomes lighter. He's able to pass through even tough situations, and including din shel Gehenna. Then the pasuk there concludes and says, "V'i nisich," that if the Eibishter will cause you pain and affliction. So what does this mean? Amma mazutra. Mazutra says the pasuk is saying there are filo ani hamisparnis min tzedakah. Even a person that himself is poor and he relies on his parnasa for tzedakah. So the beginning of the pasuk was talking about a person that has the exact amount, he has nothing extra. But even a person that does not have and he has to get from tzedakah, nevertheless, yasa tzedakah, he should give tzedakah. And then the pasuk there concludes, loy a'amcha oid. If he gives tzedakah even in such a tough situation, the Eibusha will not cause him any pain again. Tana Rav Yosef, what the pasuk is saying is, shuv ein maran loy simani aniyas. Giving tzedakah in such a situation, the Eibusha won't even show him any sign of poverty. That's the conclusion of the pasuk. Going back to the Mishnah said the borders of Eretz Yisrael, which are relevant to know for the halacha, delivering the get from outside Eretz Yisrael, where do you have to say b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechtam? So the Mishnah brought Rabbi Yudaim Rekem leMizrach on the east of Eretz Yisrael. Rekem is the most furthest the furthest place in Eretz Yisrael, and that's the first city outside of Eretz Yisrael. And then what did the Mishnah say? Akkoi. This is the main thing the Gemara is going to discuss here, that to the north, Akkoi is the northern city of Eretz Yisrael, and Akkoi is, according to one opinion, is like not part of Eretz Yisrael anymore. Says the Gemara, Lememre, shall we say, the Akkoi, Litzfaina, the Eretz Yisrael, Kaima, that Akkoi is the most eastern part of Eretz Yisrael. But how could that be? Veraminu, I'll ask you the following contradiction from a Braisa. The Braisa says, Hoya mahalech ma'Akkoi lichziv. A person was traveling from Akkoi further out north towards Ksiv. Okay, so now Akkoi, where was Akkoi in Eretz Yisrael? Akkoi is at the north of Eretz Yisrael, but it's at the northeastern corner of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so when you're traveling from Akkoi to Ksiv, so miminoi lemizrach haderech. So when you're walking and you're facing towards north and on the right of the road, Tmeya, that area is going to be Tomei Mishum Eretz Amim, because it's outside of Eretz Yisrael. We learned this a few times before. Chachamim were geyser that the land outside of Eretz Yisrael is Tomei. So on your right, which is on the Mizrach, so over there, that's outside of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore also Upeturim and Meiser. That area, if you plant there, it's Potter of Meiser, or Menashvius, and from Shemitah as well, because it's not part of Eretz Yisrael. Unless you know specifically that the road curves in one area, and therefore on the right of the road it still will be Eretz Yisrael, because the road is not always straight. So in that area it could be part of Eretz Yisrael. On the left of the road, Lemaidev, towards the west, which is further in towards Eretz Yisrael, Maidev Aderech, to the west of the road that you're traveling on. Tahira Mishum Eretz Amim. Over there, that's part of Eretz Yisrael. So it's tied. And the chayev is b'maiser b'shvius. You'll be obligated to give maiser and the halach of shmita there. That's part of Eretz Yisrael. Unless you clearly know that this is an area that the road curves out outward, and therefore even on the west of the road, that's not Eretz Yisrael anymore. Now the Braisa concludes ad heichon. Until where, when you're traveling in this road towards Ksiv, from Akkoi towards Ksiv, do you say that this strip, not strip, sorry, I'm soon going to talk about a strip. This road over here that you're traveling on is part of Eretz Yisrael, ad Ksiv. until you come to the city of Ksiv. Like it said before, you're traveling towards Ksiv until you come to the city of Ksiv. Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yasi says, no, there was another city. Mishum Aviv, he said in the name of his father, Rabbi Yasi, Ad Lav Levai, until you come to the city of Lav Levai. But the Gemara's question over here is, what do we see? That Akkai is not the most northern city of Eretz Yisrael. When you travel from Akkai and you go further out towards Lav Levai or towards Ksiv, that's the most northern city of Eretz Yisrael. So how could our Mishnah say that Akkai is the most northern city of Eretz Yisrael, and then from there further out, it's already Chutz La'aretz? So the Gemara answers, Amar Abaye says, Ritzua Nafke. There is a strip of land that comes out of Akkai to Ksiv. In other words, the main body of Eretz Yisrael, Akkai is the northernmost city of Eretz Yisrael, which was by the east northern corner of Eretz Yisrael. And then there's a strip that comes out that goes towards Ksiv. You see over here a picture in the Rashi. So you have over here Akkai, and then a strip, and then Ksiv. Okay, I'm not sure where they put Akkai in the center of Eretz Yisrael. It should be at the corner, but okay, whatever. I'm not sure. Okay, but according to the answer of the Gemara, it could be at the center. It could be that this road that you're traveling on is in this strip. Now that's what this Bryce was talking about. The road was at the right side of the strip. So therefore, when you go towards the right of this road, so then that's outside of Eretz Yisrael. But left towards this road, that's still in the strip of Eretz Yisrael, so that will be inside of Eretz Yisrael. That's what the Gemara is answering here. Okay, but now the Gemara asks on this, that you're telling me that this Bryce here is discussing this city that comes out with a strip from Eretz Yisrael. Fragt the Gemara, V'yav Tane Simona Hachi, when a Tane wants to give the Simon of Eretz Yisrael, does the Tane give, is this significant, this little strip that's coming out of Eretz Yisrael, is this something significant for the Tane to discuss and give a Simon regarding this strip of land? I mean, the border is never equal. There's always different areas and little strips that can go in and out. Will the Tana discuss this matter, the strip of land that's going out like this? So the Gemara says, yes, why not? He wants to tell you the exact area and exactly till where it goes. And we find this in a pasuk as well. Kran nami of Simona. Even in a pasuk we find when it wants to give a sign for a location, it also uses a small strip of land to give a simon regarding the location of a certain place. Where do we find this? There's a pasuk that says, "Vayoimru hine chag Hashem b'Shilo." We come to celebrate in Shiloi, yamim yimimah, from many days, and there the pasuk gives the exact location of where Shiloi was, and the pasuk describes what are on all the other sides surrounding Shiloi. On three directions from Shiloi, the pasuk explains where Shiloi is. Hashem mitzvayna leBeiskel. Shiloi was north of Beiskel. Mizracha Shemesh l'Mesila Olam Beiskel, but it was Mizrach from this pathway that comes out from Beiskel going to Shechem. Ha'olam Beiskel Shechem, that goes to Shechem. Uminegev l'Levina, and it was also south of a city called Levina. If you want to see the picture, you have it over here in the Rashi. So you see over here where Shiloi is at the bottom, and you see how it's Tzafim from Beiskel, it's Mizrach from this pathway that was going from Beiskel to Shechem, and it's Darim from Levina, which was in the Tzafim. So you see over here, the pasuk is giving you a siman regarding the location of Shiloi, and what is it using as a siman? A Mesila, this pathway. So too the Tana, when it talks about the border and the area of Eretz Yisrael, it also talks about the Ritzua. It's also something that the Tana gives a siman to tell you where Eretz Yisrael goes. Well, Rav Papa said about this pasuk, L'mizracha shel Mesila, that Shiloi was Mizrach of this pathway. Okay, so we see that the pasuk gives such a kind of a siman. Going back to the halachas of Eretz Yisrael and this halacha of saying b'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechta, when you deliver a get from outside Eretz Yisrael. So our Mishnah said the borders, but here the Gemara brings very interesting in braises that speak about the areas in Eretz Yisrael itself. If there's water, if there's a body of water in Eretz Yisrael itself, some kind of river or something like that, what happens if you bring a get from there? In one brayse we learn, Tamei vi get besfina, a person brings a get from a boat. So this is a get that was written on a boat, and at this point the Gemara thinks that what are we talking about? A river inside Eretz Yisrael, and the get was written on this boat in the river in Eretz Yisrael. I'm not sure exactly where there is rivers in Eretz Yisrael. Huh? Well, again? Yeah, there are rivers in Eretz Yisrael.
Yarden.
The Yarden, but it's, I guess, if it's... Okay, but the Yarden, I don't know if that's what it here. It's mashma that it's mamish in Eretz Yisrael, surrounded from all sides in Eretz Yisrael. The Yarden is like on the border. Huh? Okay.
Yarden is not in the border.
Even a Yarden is out is the other side. It's not mamish part of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, depends. Okay, Al Kolpanim. So the Gemara is talking about rivers in Eretz Yisrael. That's at least what the Gemara holds right now. So the get is written on this boat in the water, and the husband is sending a shliach to deliver the get into Eretz Yisrael. So the Braisa says, Kemevi Eretz Yisrael. So that's like a get that's being brought in Eretz Yisrael. The shliach delivering this get does not have to testify b'fana nechtam to say that the get is kosher. But V'tanya Yidach, in another Braisa we learned, Kemevi b'chutz la'aretz. It's like you brought the get from chutz la'aretz. And Rashi here says, this Braisa holds that the rivers in Eretz Yisrael do not have the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. Of course, the rivers are part of Eretz Yisrael, but as we'll see soon, when it comes to the rivers of Eretz Yisrael, if you plant in a boat that's on a river, so then what grows in this boat is not going to be chayiv in Trumas and Maisris, because it can't get its nourishment from the ground of Eretz Yisrael. It goes through the water, and the water is a hefsik from its nourishment that it gets from the land. So because of that, no Trumas and Maisris will be chayiv in a boat. So therefore, we see that the mitzvahs don't apply in the boat. So if the mitzvahs don't apply in the boat, so too the takana that Chazal instituted, and they established that outside Eretz Yisrael, you have to say b'fana nechtam. So regarding this takana as well, we say it doesn't have Torah sa'aretz. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not part of Eretz Yisrael. It is, but the Lashon of Rashi is, it doesn't have the Torah sa'aretz. That's what it says in another Braisa. So we have over here these two Braisas. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah said about this, like Kashya, they're not a contradiction. It's two different opinions. Ha Rabbi Yehuda, Ha Rabbanan. One Braisa is Rabbi Yehuda, and the other one is Rabbanan. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, or the Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, Afar Chutz La'aretz Haba B'Sfina. If you have the earth of Chutz La'aretz that's coming in a boat, that was placed inside a boat, and La'aretz, and it comes and it's in Eretz Yisrael. So, and you plant in it. You plant inside this boat. Chayev v'maisa b'shvius. So the Tanakama says you're going to be chayev v'maisa and shvius, even though it's growing inside the boat and it's growing an offer from Chutz La'aretz, but it now floated into Eretz Yisrael, and therefore we say that this boat gets its nourishment from the ground. Rashi over here says we're talking about an earthenware boat, and it doesn't have to have a hole in it, even though you may think that it could only get nourishment if it has a hole in it. But if it's an earthenware boat and it's on water, nevertheless, it gets nourishment from the ground that's below the water, and therefore what grows inside this boat, the halachas of Trumas and Maisris applies. Rabbi Yehuda said about this, no, not necessarily. When do I say that you chayiv in Trumas and Maisris? Bisman shasfina goysheshes. That's only if the boat is touching the ground, if it's in a shallow area, and the bottom of the boat is touching the ground. If the boat is not touching the ground, potter. So then it doesn't get any nourishment from the ground. The water is a hefsik, and therefore it's going to be potter from Trumas and Maisris. So therefore what the Gemara is basically saying is that the two Braises before regarding the boat, before the Braises were discussing a boat that's not touching the ground. So the Braisa that said that it's chutz la'aretz, and you will have to say b'fana nichta b'fana nechtam, is following the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says that unless it's touching the ground, it's not chayiv and Trumas and Maisris. It doesn't have the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. And the other Braisa is going like the Tanakama that says that even if it's not touching the ground, it's chayiv and Trumas and Maisris. Abaye says, well, if we have over here the difference in this Braisa here about whether it's touching the ground or not, so then we could say regarding the two Braisas before, Hava ha Rabbi Yehuda, both of them are following Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. V'loi kashet, there's no question. Kam bizman she'ena sfina gesheshes. The Braisa that says that it's like chutz la'aretz is because the boat is not touching the ground, and kam bizman she'sfina gesheshes. And the other Braisa that says that it's like Eretz Yisrael is because it is touching the ground. In connection to this, Amar Rab Zeire said another halacha. Otzitz nokov amunach al gabi yiseidos. If you have a flower pot that's perforated and it's lying on top of pegs, so it's not positioned directly on the ground. If it was positioned directly on the ground, so you plant in it, for sure what grows there is chayiv and trumas and maisis because it gets its nourishment directly from the ground. Here Rashi says we're talking specifically about a flower pot that is made from wood. And that's why it says that it has holes in it. Because if it was made from earthenware, then it wouldn't even have to have a hole in it. That's Rashi's shitta. There's a long Taisus over here about this. Taisus says the opposite is true. that dafka, a flower pot of wood, does not have to have a hole, and the earthenware does have to have a hole. Okay, there's a discussion in Taisus. Rab Zayda says, we're talking here about a flower pot that has a hole in it, but it's elevated off the ground. It's positioned on top of pegs. So there's ear space that's separating between this flower pot and the ground of Eretz Yisrael. So what's the halacha? What grows in this flower pot? Is it chayiv in Terumas HaMaasers or not? So Rab Zayda said, Banu l'machleikes Rab Yehuda v'Rabbanan. We come to the same machlekes of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. So Rashi explains, why is it the same machlekes? Just like Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan argued regarding what's growing inside a boat. If you put earth in a boat and you plant it in there, so what's their argument? Do I say that what's growing in the boat, it's like it's positioned on the ground itself, and the water that's in between the ground and the boat is not a hefsek? We say that it gets nourishment from the ground and it is no hefsek. So too over here I could say, regarding the air space in between, just like the water is not a hefsek, the air space is also not a hefsek. That was the Tanakama's opinion. But Rabbi Yehuda says, no, the water is a hefsek. So therefore we could say the same thing regarding the air space that's below this flower pot, that it's also a hefsek. So it's the same idea, same machlekes. That's what Rabbi Zayda said. On this Rava said, not necessarily, could you compare it? Dilme loihi, maybe it's not the same thing. The only reason Rabbi Yehuda said over there that the water is a hefsek and it must be touching the ground, so ella b'sfina hasuy levroyach. That's because it's talking about a boat that's floating, that moves around. It doesn't stay positioned in one place. So because it moves around, so it doesn't get yinika, it doesn't get nourishment from the ground, and therefore the water is considered to be a hefsek. But over here, when you have this flower pot that's positioned in one place, even if you have airspace in between, but it stays in one place. So therefore I could say that there's still some lachluchas, there's still some moisture that comes through the ear into this flower pot. So the flower pot that's not moving anywhere, over here Rabbi Yehuda will agree that it doesn't have to be mamish on the ground to say that it's getting nourishment from the ground. Rava says the opposite also. We could say that you can't compare to the Rabbanan's opinion there. Or I could tell you, when did the Rabbanan over there say regarding a boat that even though there's water separating between what's growing inside the boat and the ground, but nevertheless it's like it's growing from the ground itself, so they only said that there, they said it's only regarding a boat. Why? Because there's no ear space. Ear space, that's considered to be a real hefsek. That's an interruption between the flower pot and the ground. The maya ki ares michtadami, because water is considered to be like it's a continuation of the ground. It's like one thick ground, and therefore it's as if the boat is directly on the ground itself. Aval otzitz,
if there's water?
Yeah, if it's on top of the water, that's the boat. Aval otzitz, the mafsek avida, but with the flower pot that has ear space in between, maybe ear space is not like water. Ear space is considered to be a hefsek and therefore does not get its nourishment from the ground. So therefore you can't compare, the point there is you can't compare the hefsek of water to the hefsek of ear space, and you can't compare the flower pot, which is stationary, to the boat, which floats around and moves from one place to another.